What is up, guys? Welcome back to a extremely important episode of Buffalo's Breakdown. I'm Ryland. I'm here with one half of the co-host, Jack,
Hello.
and we have some huge news. Four-star quarterback out of Carrollton, Georgia, Juju Lewis, has officially committed to become a Colorado Buffalo. Decommitted from USC in Lincoln Riley not too long ago. Has been pretty loudly flirting with the Buffs for about 6 to 8 months. There was a little scare with Indiana. There was a little scare with Georgia, but nevertheless, Juju ended up in Boulder. What does this mean for the program, Jack?
You said 4-star, which is kind of
It's
bullshit. I think
BS.
we all know
OnStar
he's
knocks him.
on three has knocked him down.
OnStar.
Apropos of nothing, on three also downgraded Jordan Seaton after he committed to the University of Colorado. Two, um, who knows why that happened. I'll also just mention, apropos of nothing, that Colorado does not have a team site with on three. Um, Apparently that matters. But Juju Lewis commits to Colorado finally after a long flirtation period. And it's worth noting that he has flirted with Colorado while he was committed to USC. USC's head coach happens to be Lincoln Riley, and there's not a single coach in the country who is better at identifying and developing quarterback talent than Lincoln Riley. Full stop. So that is all I needed to see to know that he will be a legit quarterback moving forward. And there's some other things I think that make this really exciting and a really good fit for what we know of the Deion Sanders program that we have. So, yeah, Juju Lewis was the number one far and away recruit for the 2026 class, right? And he did a bunch of work and reclassified down to the 2025 class. So he's extremely young, right? He's turned 17 this year. He's also an early enrollee. So he's going to get to Boulder in Denver, in December of 2024 when you're supposed to be finishing high school in May of 2026. That speaks a bunch of stuff, but that basically means he kickstarted his development really, really early, and he still looks like a little bit like that physically. But we know that that means that he has the mental preparation there to make an instant impact. The other thing that makes this such a Deion Sanders, a Coach Prime recruit, is he's had the spotlight since he was in eighth grade. We know who Juju Lewis is, and so do a lot of people who won't follow recruiting very casually. And that's pretty unique for quarterbacks. You'll see some of the biggest five-star quarterbacks where people who follow college football a lot will know their names. Juju Lewis is a name that a lot of people know already. Some of that's the drama, some of that's that he's already been in the spotlight, but a lot of that's just he knows how to build a brand. And there's no better fit for a player who has a brand that they know they want to continue to build than the University of Colorado. And having that rep is huge. So, what does it mean for the program? You get a successor to Shador Sanders. You get a guy who can play right away, even though he's kind of young on the younger side. But more importantly, you also get a guy who understands that CU is a place that may not have the handout NIL money that other five-star blue blood programs have, but there's no better place to maximize publicity than CU right now. And that's when you get guys who not only have the spotlight, they keep wanting more of it. And that's great news.
Yeah, and I think on the NIL side, Colorado is they're really ramping things up over the last year and capitalizing. I know the two collectives have merged, and we're in a position to where we can keep guys here, we can bring guys in, which is huge. So that's not a stressful thing anymore. But just bringing in a player like Juju is monumental for a program. There's going to be no replacing Shador Sanders right off the bat. There probably are going to be some growing pains next year. And if he comes in, he's going to play immediately, barring something weird happening. And I think that's a huge factor. That's probably one of the biggest factors as to why he's decided to come to Colorado to play. Pretty much, well, Hassan Longstreet flipped from A&M to USC, and within like 2 hours of that, Juju had officially decommitted from USC. I know that a lot of that is because of Juju loudly flirting with other programs.
Mhm.
So what just do you think this means to bring in a prospect of that caliber to this program?
Yeah, so there's a few things that went on there. I don't think that USC was counting Juju Lewis as committed for the last few months. And from
Hmm.
what we can kind of tell, it just seemed to be a classy move from both sides to say that they're committed to each other until they've both found someone better, right? Um, I don't know. It was like what's the thing that Gwyneth Paltrow and Chris Martin said when they got divorced? It was a mutual separation, and they're not getting divorced. They're just changing the nature of the relationship. That's kind of what it felt like, you know. Whereas like both teams knew, both Lewis and USC knew that they weren't going to be for each other, but to save face, both of them waited until there was someone better that came along. So um, I think that Lewis brings with him obviously a five-star quarterback on the recruiting trail. It's a lot easier to build a high school class around a quarterback like that. That is the way that high school recruiting works. Is you get the quarterback first, you get the face of the class first, and then everything else falls into place. Juju Lewis is that face of the class that CU can point to now. And it's not like CU was having trouble recruiting before, but what you get with someone like Juju Lewis is a knockoff effect this year for this class as CU fills it out. So we just saw on the Utah game the best high school visitor list we've had in I don't know, since 2001, since 1994, maybe in one weekend. The number one offensive lineman in the country, Michael Carroll, came to visit. The number one linebacker in the country, Nathaniel Wosu Boateng, came to visit. The number, I think, what, five defensive end, London Merritt, came with them, all from the same school, by the way. And also, not for nothing, a kicker, but those three are legit stars that would be the best player by far in every other class the CU's had in high school, except for the Deion Sanders class. With Juju Lewis, the knockoff effect is all those guys now have permission, right? It becomes a lot easier for those guys to say yes to flipping or becoming Colorado commits because he has already made that leap. It makes it a lot easier to build a class of other 4 or 5 prep stars if you have the quarterback that is a legit blue chip quarterback, right? And that's when you start to get that crazy effect that Georgia has, that these people have that recruit year after year incredibly well in high school. Is once you have that guy that gives permission to everyone else, then they all start coming, right? And we all know this. Deion Sanders is going to be an incredible recruiter. Now that you have that permission from the high schooler saying, I'm going to be here for 3 or 4 years, you come join me, it's going to be insane as CU finishes out this year. So, what does it mean to the program? On the field, we can talk about that a little bit later, but off the field, it just makes it a lot easier to get those long-term high school players that we know that CU doesn't necessarily have right now. Some of that's by design, but also some of that's because we haven't had the stability that we have now. So Juju Lewis brings some of that class stability with him.
Yeah, and then you touched on the IMG guys coming last weekend. That IMG pipeline is seemingly a real thing that they've built with this program,
Hmm.
starting with Jordan Seaton and Cash Cleveland coming in. But that's also huge. You know, having snagging a guy like Juju Lewis of that caliber, that's something that can absolutely break open the floodgates. And just during the next few weeks, like guys can start pouring in, which is massive. As for kind of what it means to the program, this would be, and I'm counting Juju as a 5-star player because he should be. It's just on three not liking Colorado football. But this will be the third straight year that a 5-star player out of high school has come to Colorado. We had Cormani come, and then Jordan Seaton this year, and then it would be Juju Lewis. That's the crown jewel of the high school recruiting class. I am kind of interested to see if the recruiting philosophy kind of changes after this year when Shador and Travis leave. If it's going to be super boomer bust transfer portal kind of deal or more of a traditional high schooler like high school recruiting pipeline. I'm anticipating it'll be a little mix of both, but it'll be heavier on the high school side of things than it has been for the last 2 seasons.
Well,
Also,
I mean,
oh,
let's
you go
just
ahead,
look.
Jack.
Let's just look how Deion Sanders talked about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I am reticent to say that there's a difference in how they view high school recruiting and portal recruiting. And I think that Deion Sanders pretty much confirmed that in his press conference this before the Kansas game, where he said he doesn't he looks for players that can play right away, right? He just looks for people who can contribute. And obviously that means that you'd assume that there'll be portal players that can contribute right away more often than high schoolers. But this year's a great example. Jordan Seaton's a true freshman that's starting. Cash Cleveland's a true freshman that's starting. Jalen Miller's a true freshman that caught 2 touchdowns. Or yeah, 2 touchdowns this year. So like I don't think he cares if they're a high schooler or a portal player. I think he cares if they can play for him next year. And what you get when you get to this rarefied air as you win, as you get guys like Juju Lewis's, is more freshmen that can play next year. Um, so I don't know if there's a number he's looking for, or like a mix he's looking for. I think it's, can you help us next year? If yes, then join our team.
I think the other interesting thing about it is I think before the Utah game or maybe the previous game, he said something about how he understands how this high school recruiting stuff works. If you bring in too big of a high school recruiting class, nobody's going to play. Like not enough people are going to play, and all of them are going to transfer out. So he's been intentional in keeping these classes small so he can focus on the recruits more, put them in the game so they will stick around. It was more. I don't know the exact quote, and I don't mean to paraphrase, but it was more or less like, why would you bring in 30 guys and have half of them transfer, but you can bring in 15 to 17 guys and get them to play and they all stay? So that's, I mean, I don't disagree with that assessment at all. I think that's actually probably a really smart thing to do.
I mean, we're gonna have turnover. Every team has turnover, but I think that you don't, as an example, a very present example, you don't bring in Juju Lewis to sit for 2 years behind Ryan Staub. No offense, Ryan Staub, but like this is the type of thing Deion Sanders is not, even with high school recruiting, is not looking 3 years down the line after they develop. I don't think he wants or feels like he can develop these people to play in 3 years. Like you mentioned, if you develop them for 2 years, they might just transfer. And in fact, we have benefited greatly from other people, other programs doing that. So Juju Lewis is a great way to get into more high schools and more high school recruiting that lets you play them right away. And I don't think there's any other thing he's trying to do here.
Yeah. And I mean, just bringing in Juju Lewis is such a big deal. I also want to touch on this a little bit. Juju Lewis, one of his idols is Cordell Stewart. He's been pretty vocal about it on Twitter.
That's
there's
why he wears
multiple
number
photos
10.
of him. I know. I think that's also a big deal in getting him here. You don't really see a whole ton of Colorado fans talking about that era of Colorado football anymore. It's kind of now or never for a lot of people, and it's really cool to see recruits come in because of what's happened in this program before Deion has got here, and I think that's a really nice change of pace. And it's really cool as a longtime Buffs fan to see some 5-star recruit come in and talk about how Slash is one of his heroes. Like it's awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, how coincidental. And also, Vic George came out this past week against the Utah game and said that Cordell Stewart was instrumental in bringing Deion Sanders to Colorado because, unbeknownst to even Vic George, Deion Sanders was asking him, "What do you know about this guy? Can he be trusted?" All that stuff. So he's the gift that keeps giving. I would argue the single greatest quarterback in Colorado history. Just happened to play at a time when he wouldn't be used like Juju Lewis would be used. But yeah, I mean, great to see that connection brought through. Um, and we both keep saying that Juju Lewis is special, but we haven't said why he's special. So I guess Rylan, I want you to go off a little bit. Like, why is Juju Lewis special? Why is this a big deal?
Okay, so if you look at these touchdown numbers, let me pull this up actually. Give me 1 second. So I should have had this ready. But the stats are insane. Statistically, he's the best high school quarterback in the country this season. How many touchdowns does he have here? Come on. Why is this so hard to find?
I know this year he has 40.
40, exactly. Like he is kind of a one-man offense. He can beat you through the air. He's very mobile. He can beat you on the ground. And like you said earlier about Lincoln Riley is the single best evaluator of quarterback talent in the country. And there's really no argument around that. You see how many Heisman winners he had at Oklahoma. You see what happened when he went to USC with Caleb Williams. This season, Miller Moss isn't that guy, but USC is always perpetually bringing in one of the best, if not the best quarterback in every single recruiting class. And to be able to steal a guy like that from USC is a big sign to, what he can do on the field at the collegiate level.
And let's be real, right? USC is going to be just fine with Houston Longstreet. Longstreet is an incredible player, and frankly has a better arm than Juju Lewis in terms of like pure strength. So it's not like Lincoln Riley's hurting, right?
No.
However, I will say Juju Lewis fits um, what you might expect an earlier Lincoln Riley quarterback to look like. So, um, what do I mean by that? Juju Lewis is not a huge guy. He is not Jalen Hurts. He is not Caleb Williams, right? That's not what he looks like.
Yeah, he's more of a Baker or a Kyler.
Yes, Baker Mayfield is your best case college football comp for Juju Lewis. He has some legs. He can run. He doesn't like to run, but he can run, just like Baker. He uses the run to escape. He doesn't use the run to get some yards. But what he does have, even as a 17-year-old, more than any prospect I've seen Colorado go after ever in my time, is the most accurate arm I, in high school football that I've seen. It's not like I'm out there scouting high school quarterbacks, so I'm sure other people can find other examples. But Juju Lewis is deadly accurate with the football. That's his best trait, and that's why he's a 5-star. Is he knows where to put the football on the money every time from multiple different throwing positions and angles. On the run, off his back foot, against his body, he can throw the ball to where it needs to go with timing and touch more than any high school quarterback I've seen CU recruit, period. And that is very exciting for his immediate impact and also his long-term impact. Um, you know, I will say that reminds you also a lot of the guy that CU currently has under center, right? That's also his greatest aspect. So, Juju Lewis has 100, I think, what'd you say in terms of career touchdowns?
I think 40, or let's
40
see,
this year. I think it's
40 this year,
140 in his career.
136 in his
Yep.
varsity career.
And that's in Georgia 7A high school. You said he's from Carrollton High School. That's in Georgia. That is the highest level of Georgia high school football. Okay, this is not like
This is
nothing.
where
This is
Travis
not.
Hunter played. Like, this is where the same league pretty much.
Yeah, let's do even better comparisons. This is the league that Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence played in too, and
Yeah.
Juju Lewis happens to have more career touchdowns than both those players. So he's not like he is producing now at a high level. Not college, obviously, huge step up, but he's always been productive, and that's because as a quarterback, he does the main quarterback's job. He gets the ball to where it needs to go on time and on target more than any quarterback I've seen CU recruit ever. So, like, I don't know. That's a pretty big deal and really exciting to think about for the future.
Absolutely. And it's, as I mentioned earlier, it's going to be impossible to replace Shedeur Sanders. But if there's going to be a guy to come in and make a Shedeur Sanders-esque impact to a program, it's going to be Juju Lewis. Like, you don't see guys like this come around super often, and especially you don't see guys like this come to Colorado ever. Like, just 3-4 years ago, we had a safety convert from Oregon State be playing quarterback for us.
Don't you dare disrespect Sam Neuer like that.
Sam Neuer is awesome.
Dare you, Ryland?
Like, just think about how long or like how far this program's come in
Of course.
super short amount of time.
I'm still a Brendan Lewis.
Take
I'm
it.
still a Brendan Lewis believer, and frankly, I'm being proven right on that. But
Go
Brendan Lewis
Wolfpack.
was the most.
Go Wolfpack.
Go Wolfpack. But he was the most decorated quarterback recruit in terms of offers, and for CU in the last 20 years when he was recruited. And that was a Mel Tucker, Jay Johnson guy that happened to play for Durrell as well. But that was a high 3-star, right? That CU beat out like SMU, CU beat out Texas Tech, some of those smaller Power 5 programs in the region of Texas for Brendan Lewis' signature. And that was the highest rated quarterback recruit for the last 20 years in Colorado, right? I should say out of high school. We're different now. Like this is just different now. And it's super exciting to think about um, because you don't have to spend 2 years developing a Kate Apsey or a Steven Montez before they can make a difference. Juju Lewis is the type of guy that will make a difference. Um, and I don't think he can make a Shador Sanders impact. I'll just say that right away. No one can be the best quarterback in college football. No one should expect it to be the best quarterback in college football their freshman year. But when you talk about his impact to the program, Seton is doing a similar thing, and where we don't need him to be Shador Sanders in 2025 if all goes to plan. Juju Lewis could not have a Shador Sanders 2023 season where he's running for his life every other play and still dropping absolute dimes, right? But we don't need him to have a Shador Sanders 2023 season if the offensive line is better and the defensive line is better. We need him to just have a solid college freshman quarterback season. And I think that's absolutely within the realm of possibility.
Yeah, it's very clear that this program, or at least this team, is going to take a step back next season. They are losing their two best players, and they're both probably the two best players this program has seen since the 90s. So um, it's expected that next season there's going to be some growing pains, but given time, Juju has the potential to be something special. Absolutely. And right away, it is very important to give him the pieces to succeed right off the bat. Keeping the offensive line intact, keeping Jordan Seton around is huge. Keeping the wide receiver room the way it is with Amarion Miller and Draylon Miller, and bringing in guys to kind of up the talent, like having guys to be around Juju Lewis and having Isaiah Gustive and Michael Welch around so he doesn't have to do everything himself. The pieces are there, and there's some really intriguing young pieces on this football team already before even the class of 2025 or the 2025 season even starts. It's a really unique position for him to be in, and they need to make the most of it.
Yeah, and I'll just say this too. That's a great rundown of the offensive side of the ball, but more than anything, what's going to help a freshman Juju Lewis if he doesn't in fact start in 2025 is keeping Robert Livingston and that defense intact.
Yeah.
If Livingston sticks around and if CU can keep the talent that is currently growing up in there for one more year, you're going to lose a lot on the defensive line side of things, but you also have a lot returning, which just speaks to depth. How fun is that? But Livingston returning for a second year in his system, in this system, means a lot of good things for CU in the future. And a great way to make Juju Lewis's life easier as a freshman quarterback is to make sure that he only has the opposing team scoring 24 points, 21 points. He only has to score 4 drives a game for CU to have a chance. And I'm telling you right now, if Livingston comes back next year, that defense is not going to take a step back. So,
No.
um, that's a really another great way to make sure he's set up for success next year, and would speak a lot to overall program health if we can have some continuity on the coaching staff and with the players that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not super hopeful in Livingston coming back. The way this unit's playing, he's going to get some big time offers,
Yep.
probably even from the NFL. So
Yep.
it would be awesome if Livingston came back, and I wouldn't complain about that by any means. But I'm not getting my hopes up. But yeah, keeping the defense intact is also pivotal because you don't want to make the freshmen have to do everything. You kind of see what's going on in Nebraska right now with their
Yep.
freshman quarterback. If you want to talk about
Exactly.
that.
Exactly. All we need to do, Ryland, to really succeed next year is hire Dana Holgerson 10 weeks into the season. And then Juju Lewis is going to be in a great spot.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah, Dana's gonna pull that program out of hell.
yeah, so that was the one pity Nebraska mention we had. We'll stop after that. But Juju Lewis as a player, like we said, I think is deadly accurate, is incredibly experienced, has played a lot of football, and both those situations remind me of Shador Sanders coming out of high school. We all see who Shador Sanders is now. I think Baker Mayfield has a similar situation. In high school, he definitely played a lot, but he also sat behind Patrick Mahomes at Texas Tech before he became a star at Oklahoma too. But I think Baker Mayfield as a physical comp is really a good fit because Baker Mayfield was what 5'11" on a great day, I think Juju Lewis is closer to that profile than something like Shador Sanders. But they do both have legs. They both have live arms that can get the ball where it needs to be. They're not incredibly powerful, but they are accurate. Um, And he's a really fun player to watch. Like, I don't know, Juju Lewis is a really fun quarterback to watch. He just knows how to manage an offense.
Yeah, 100%. Is there anything else you want to touch on before, we wrap this up? We've got 25 minutes in talking about Juju.
Yeah, I guess what I'll say is this is also a really good sign, as you pointed out, of the current financial environment in and around the Colorado football program. Juju Lewis really likes, I think, a lot of what Colorado and Coach Prime has to offer, but he also really likes money, as does everyone else. So the fact that CU's swimming with these sharks is a really good sign for other battles as we get down the stretch. Um, and like I said, he's a great piece to build around. A quick 1-2 example of that is his current high school teammate, Carday Smith is a 4-star offensive lineman, also at Carrollton, Georgia, and has visited CU twice. Right, really easy to flip that guy now from USC to Colorado if his high school quarterback's also going to Colorado. So, just watch this become a catalyst for a lot more changes as we get further into the recruiting process, and which is exciting, right? That's why you get a guy like this at this point in the cycle, because just watch out. I see you win more games. I'm telling you, it's going to be crazy.
Yeah, I think this is the match that kind of starts the fire. Like things are going to start to get crazy after this, both on and off the field. But good time to be a Colorado Buffalo, as it has been for the last few years. So
And a
why
great
not
time
hop
to
on
look at the
board?
Ralphie
You
Report.
can.
Am I right? Great
Oh
time to
yeah.
look at the Ralphie Report.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's always a great time to look at the Ralphie Report, but it's the greatest time to look at the Ralphie Report now.
Speaking of, John, we nailed it. Let's go to an ad break.
Boom.
So close to the middle of the episode.
I know. Uh-oh.
Well, anyways, yeah, I think that's all I had to say. Anything else you wanted to say, Ryland?
I think that's it. I think we nailed it. Awesome.
Yeah. Well, Juju Lewis commits to the Buffaloes. This is obviously in your feeds, but we have plenty of more stuff around this at RalphieReport.com. Please look at that. And yeah, let's keep this recruiting thing rolling.
Yeah. Keep an eye out on the Ralphie Report website and our Twitter, in our Blue Sky now, for more recruiting news. We're going to try to keep on top of this and keep this momentum up. And yeah, we'll be around. Feel free to ask us any questions. I'm pretty accessible. My Twitter handle is underneath my name here. So yeah, take care, guys. Let's go Buffs.